We have a Kāinga Ora Homes and Community successful migration of their Oracle e-business suite environment from on-prem to infrastructure to Team Cloud, which is a sovereign New Zealand cloud powered by Oracle technology. It was delivered in partnership with Cognizant. The project moved core enterprise systems to dedicated Exadata infrastructure across 2 isolated sovereign cloud regions. It was completed in approximately 16 weeks, which I'm really interested to learn how you managed to do that, with no business disruption, and the migration provides improved performance, scalability and operational resilience while ensuring government data remains locally governed within New Zealand. The program demonstrates how public sector agencies can modernise critical Oracle workloads whilst maintaining sovereignty, security and compliance in a cloud-first environment. Now, I'm going to ask you all to ask questions in Slido, and the gentlemen over here are going to be having a chat amongst each other. So first I'm going to introduce you to Ian Rogers, who's the Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of Team IM and co-founder of Team Cloud, and he will introduce the speakers.
Thanks, Bill. First of all, I'd just like to, I don't know if Roger Bradshaw is in the audience, but Roger convinced us to be the platinum sponsor for this event over a couple of Guinnesses in Chapman Taylor, which I guess you're all familiar with. And we were really proud to be part of this. I think it's a great event. I'm the Managing Director of Team IM. We've been working in Wellington in public sector for about 13 years. We used to be called Team Asperona. And then about 3 years ago, we signed a partnership with Oracle to run part of their Alloy program, which allows us to run basically a version of Oracle Cloud in New Zealand, managed and executed by ourselves in our own premises. And we opened our first region in August 24 and our second one in November. And we are sort of slowly onboarding commercial and public sector. And one of our first public sector customers was Inland Revenue, and we migrated them from Sydney back to our regions just north of Auckland. We were really thrilled actually to be contacted by Kāinga Ora 18 months ago in respect to a possible migration. So what I'd like to do is introduce Jan and Jason. We work very closely with Jan and Jason, obviously, but I think it's better if Jan gives a bit of background on himself and his role within Kāinga Ora.
Thank you, Ian. Kia ora, Jan Serfontein, Director Technology Operations at Kāinga Ora. Kāinga Ora is, as you be aware, the public housing landlord. We own about 78,000 properties and house about 200,000 of our vulnerable people in our homes as well. My background, mainly in technology most of my life, and been at Kāinga Ora and its predecessors for the last 8 odd years, and in looking after the operational side of the technology function, and really quite keen to have a bit of a chat and share the experience and the enjoyment and the challenges we had working on this project. Pass over to Jason.
Thanks, Jan. My name is Jason McHenry. I'm the Client Director for Cognizant. And essentially, my role was the advocate between 3 or 4 of our parties, and Team Cloud was one of those parties, along with One New Zealand and Oracle, to get the migration and make sure that we got it across the line within the timeframes that were considered. I think one of the best things for me was working with an organisation that I grew up with, which was, and those of us with no hair or grey hair understand it was Housing New Zealand, then Kāinga Ora Homes and Communities, but still the same, organisation, still delivering the same social housing. So it's been great to be part of that project.
Thank you. I've actually got Slido just on my phone here, so if you want to ask any questions, I will ask the panel those at appropriate times. But to kick things off, Jan, maybe you could tell us a bit about the project and why you decided to move into a cloud.
Yes, so we run a fairly large Oracle estate, and it supports both our tenancy services, some of our asset management functions, as well as ERP. It was running on on-prem infrastructure that was becoming end of life, and we needed to look at modernising. This is also at the start of quite a significant modernisation program that we've embarked on over the next few years. And what was critical was to ensure that we have a stable, performant environment for our organisation to launch its further modernisation on. We looked at a number of options and went to market, and Cognizant and Team IM, or Team Cloud, sorry, came through with a really compelling argument and approached it from a point of view of what is the best outcome for us as an organisation to serve both our own people but also the people living within our homes. And also because of certain timeframe challenges and our hardware reaching the point of starting to cause instability within the organisation, we pushed up against quite a tight deadline, which ended up being for us that we had a 16-week period to do this whole project from the get-go. And that's kind of where we started when we went present the information and the solution that both Cognizant and Team Cloud came up with really aligned to what we needed to achieve. But they also looked at it not just from a technology point of view, but what is an outcome for us and what are the questions we need to ask ourselves, and was quite forthcoming in being a good, challenging partner to ensure we get the right outcome for us.
Thank you, Jan. Now I've got our first question for you, Jan. Another one. Why did you choose to use Team Cloud rather than an overseas provider?
We looked at multiple options, both onshore and offshore, and all the hyperscalers. In the end, the engagement we had with Team Cloud addressed a couple of issues for us. One, it was onshore. While it wasn't critical for us to be onshore, it just made sense because a lot of our other infrastructure and services are still based onshore. The second thing, commercially, it was a very attractive offer. And thirdly, the way they engaged with us and treated us as a true partner about achieving an outcome instead of just another customer also was really quite compelling for us to move to Team Cloud.
Thank you. So how does the cloud-based, this is another question from the audience, how does your cloud-based environment TCO compare with the previous on-prem?
Significantly cheaper. So through the whole process, we did not just optimization, but also cost out, and we ended up on about a 40% cost reduction from where we started. So that made a significant difference for us as an organization, especially considering the environment in which we need to operate today.
Thank you. And Jason, just a question for you. How was the experience for you and Cognizant? And would you have done anything differently?
Oh, there's always the learnings, right? Always the things to do differently. But I think for us, we started the project off with what we called kotahitanga, which was that one team approach. And effectively, it was such a critical project. You've got an organisation that's, providing social housing. We didn't want any disruption to their current business. We went through a whole number of different key success factors. And that kotahitanga approach from all of the suppliers when we all sat together actually made it quite seamless, but also provided Kāinga Ora with assurance that they were being guided and led by a single team, not a whole bunch of different suppliers conflicting interests. Also, I wanted to mention I was here yesterday for Sir Brian's keynote at the start. And he mentioned things like trust. And New Zealand's a village; it's not a country. And you're only as good as your last migration or your last job, and a number of other different factors. And the quote that I wanted to share with you today, which was, I think, something where I believe, and hopefully Jan will back me up on this one, but there's a quote from a global AI expert that I recently got, and it was called trust, and trust is earned in droplets but given away in buckets. Yeah, and it was a fantastic quote. And he described this story, and the story was essentially turned up in San Francisco. I'm going to try one of these driverless cars, and he goes, I'm a bit nervous. Books it in via the app. First experience, fantastic. Second experience, fantastic. Third experience, and the car did a U-turn in front of other traffic and caused an accident, and he went, that's it, I'm done. So, you have to, I suppose, in the context of this, is you need to look at single points of failure within both the organisation that's providing the service as much as the organisation is asking for the service. And that was a really key thing that we did. We also provided what we call a hybrid shoring model. And that's essentially, we had from 8 a.m. in the morning through to about 1 a.m, we had a team that was being led in country, but then we had a team offshore that was also doing a lot of the migration work. Now, what that allowed us to do is meet timeframes that were extremely tight, 16 weeks, but it also gave us that ability to wake up in the morning and start testing and migrating through and doing a whole bunch of other work. So we were concentrating on the areas that we needed to. We were engaging with Team Cloud and we were engaging with the project team at Kāinga Ora, and it just flowed on a daily basis, which was great.
Thanks, Jason. Another question for you, Jan. I'm just going to merge a couple of these questions from the audience. Have you found implementing change easier or harder since shifting to sovereign cloud? And what kind of governance did you put in place for the project?
Both is from easier and harder. I think in some parts change became a lot easier once we've gone through a bit of a uplift of capability and maturity within the organisation ourselves, and especially within the technology space. That definitely made a difference, but also because of some of our constraints, even with the migration of the applications running on top of it, some change is not as easy as what we would have liked it to be. But it was a bit of a combination of easy and not so easy. But the big shift for us there was about the behaviours within the organisation, the capabilities we need within the organisation, and the willingness for people to be comfortable being uncomfortable and learning new things and unlearning some of the behaviours and knowledge that they've had previously. And sorry, in the second part? I'm not sure if I answered the whole question. Governance.
And to what extent was team involved in governance as well?
Yeah. So I'll talk about governance in two parts. During the project, we had really strong governance from all the parties involved, and that was ourselves, Team Cloud, and Cognizant, and Oracle as well, because we needed to make sure that if there were anything that needed addressing, we could address it really quickly. And that led to some good discussion early on when we saw some challenges popping up along the way. Once we were implemented and working, we had to change some of our internal governance processes to ensure that people don't just go haywire and turn stuff on left, right, and centre. Yeah, but that bit was probably the easier bit to do because that came as part of the business change and that we did during the process and during the project, and we put quite a lot of focus on that.
Thank you. So this is a question for Jason and Jan. So how did you actually achieve the migration in 16 weeks? There were some, as I recall, pressured moments.
Yes, it's a short answer. Through real close collaboration and the willingness to be honest and have difficult conversations. So we did put a couple of things in place that helped us to achieve that. Is one, we had really regular project steering group meetings, but also in between those steering group meetings, we also had real corridor conversations where we go talk to the project team and the people on the front line and understanding what's really happening, so that if there are any concerns or any issues being raised, that we can address it really quickly. And I think the thing around that is people should not be afraid to call out challenges when they see it, or uncomfort and discomfort when they see it. One of the big things that probably, two things that almost bit us was one, people saying things are okay when it's slipping slightly, and it snowballs really quickly from that point on. The second thing that causes problems, and Jason can talk to this as well, is when we kicked off the project, we didn't take 2 weeks in the beginning to really set it up properly and have governance in place, real clear expectation setting, real clear alignment on the goals, which meant there was a little bit of misalignment in the beginning, and we probably lost about a week as a result of that. But once we got that sorted, we were fine. But that was a big lesson learned for us.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think what we also did was we had a really clear understanding. We've had a working relationship with Kāinga Ora now for over 9 years. So we had a clear understanding of the organisation, who was there and what we needed to achieve. And I think from our perspective, it's not about when you're doing a migration of this importance and critical infrastructure, it's not about transformation. It's about transition first, then transform. And we had a series of improvements that we kept putting in the parking lot, and we sort of started those after the migration. Because at the end of the day, to do all of that at once on critical infrastructure inside an organisation that's relying on that Oracle to keep working, that ERP, you can't do everything over that period of time. And I think what we've experienced in post-project and the improvements that we put in the parking lot, the FinOps have increased, the OpEx has come down, the service experience has gotten better. So all of those things were the right things to do. And because it was leading up to a month end in November and the full migration in hypercare in December, everybody needed a break. 16 weeks of some pretty tight time frames and some pretty brutal sort of hours. And everybody came back in the new year refreshed, and then we got onto the improvements, which I think was probably one of the, savings for both the organisation and for us. Yeah.
Thank you. We've got an interesting one, Jan, as a question. How did you create the psychological safety required for staff to feel comfortable to raise risks and issues?
What we did right at the beginning, a couple of things. Right at the beginning, we got everyone together and said, this is a one-team approach. It is not a Kāinga Ora, Team Cloud, and Cognizant and Oracle. It is a one team, so we're all aiming for the same goal. And the second thing we did was to make it really clear that we are not looking to blame at all. What we're looking for is, as the governance function and the executive oversight of the program, on the project, was to tell people that we are there to remove roadblocks and that our job is to ensure that they can achieve what they need to achieve. Tell us, how do we help you? And that really helped. I know we've had a couple of pretty, I'm going to use spicy, but pretty lively steering group meetings and then some other meetings as well, where the conversation was always focused on what is the problem we need to solve, not who missed something where. And that helped to create that one team feeling. And also I think the other thing that was really important is the executive sponsors across all the organizations had the consistent message that they told not only to their own people, but also to the people of the other parties. So I've had that conversation with people from Cognizant, from Team Cloud, same for people like Jason and Ian, talking to Kāinga Ora staff to say, look, we're here to support. Tell us what you need and how do you need it so that we can achieve it. And that helped us to grow. But I think the big thing there is when things go wrong, and they did go wrong a little bit, is to go, well, how do we as a team fix it? And that helped to make that psychological safety aspect for people a lot more real and a lot more tangible, especially after the first time we went through that process.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And from a vendor perspective, yeah, I've been involved in projects in New Zealand which have been quite adversarial, and so everyone gets very careful about what they say. So I think with this migration and with our ongoing relationship with Kāinga Ora, it's more like a partnership. And we often say, I mean, we got the technical aspects and obviously the commercial, but yeah, we see projects like this as really good for New Zealand. It's we need to build more houses quicker, faster and cheaper, and working on this transformation is going to allow us to do that. So I think it's very commendable. I've got a question about how did you broach the topic with the CFO about the CapEx versus OpEx, and it's one I come up against as well quite a lot. Is 5-to-1 or 10-to-1 swap.
It's interesting because we are in some ways a CapEx intensive organisation. We do a lot of construction activities, but it wasn't such a big problem for us in the technology space because our CFO comes from a commercial background and she's very much focused on transitioning, in any case, as much technology cost to OPEX instead of CapEx. So for us, it wasn't really an issue at all. The bigger issue was if we wanted to do a CapEx outlay, that would have been a way harder challenge to go and present that business case to the CFO.
Thank you. So we're 15 months now since we went live. Do you have any tips for the audience on expectation setting or anything else?
The experience is way better than what it was previously. So from a technology point of view, it just works. Much faster response times, more resiliency, really stable. Can't complain about that at all from a technology point of view. Tips is it's a marathon, not a sprint, and there's lots of things that need to happen. The beginning is moving onto onto something like what we've got with Team Cloud, and then the hard work really starts by continuing to mature, changing behaviours, changing processes, and it's an educational journey at that point. But it becomes easier over time because people can look forward. And I think the other thing as well is to keep on reminding people can get a bit despondent when they look at what's still left to be done. It's really important to celebrate the successes and also get people to look back at where they've come from, to go, where were we a week ago, where were we a month ago, where were we 3 months ago, and where were we 6 months ago. And then suddenly people can see just how far they've come, and that really helps to keep the journey going.
Thank you. So we've got 5 minutes left, and so I've got one last question, unless there are more that come up on Slido. But to both of you, if you were giving advice to other agencies about how to approach this, what would your 5 top tips be for approaching a cloud migration? Maybe, Jason, do you want to start?
5 top tips. I'll see if I can get to 5.
You can be 3.
Yeah, I can do 3. Yeah. Look, the top tip is ensuring that you have that kotahitanga approach. Understand, set out the norms, set out the baselines. We're going to have an agile component. Have we got executive sponsorship within organisations? Can we move it forward? So that groundwork, or I call it the foundational work is just critical. If I was going to set that up before any project, even if you were going to market, if you could outlay that would be even better. The second tip would probably be, and this is a little bit biased from my perspective, but the hybrid shoring model with the expertise onshore and offshore gives a level of comfort to the customer, but also gives a level of speed that we can get it done. And what that approach does is that, New Zealand's tech industry, there's people going offshore at a reasonably high rate, chasing the money and a whole bunch of other different things. So you've got to think differently. And when we thought differently and first positioned it to Kāinga Ora, I think they knew that we understood their business. They knew what we could achieve and how we were going to achieve it. So that would be another tip. And if I was looking at the third tip, for me, the parking lot was great because essentially what we ended up with, instead of the transform, it was transition. We're transitioning, it's cutting across, it's the same thing, and then we're transforming. And that transform element of it really ended up giving us some really nice warm fuzzies after the project, which we had anyway, but it also allowed us to celebrate those small wins, that everything was actually working and we were just tweaking as we went. So that'd be my 3. Yeah.
For me, probably the first one is be really clear on what the outcome is you need to achieve. And that needs to be succinct, that people can look at it and they know exactly why they're doing what they're doing. That why is super important. I think the second thing is make sure that it is communication is key, that people are talking and having the hard conversations early, if need be. And I think the third thing for me is kind of is just have a good plan, but also realize that things will go wrong, and just focus on the outcome and focus on what do we need to do to resolve the issues. Because if you have those three things, I think you can move mountains. And also the thing is you can say, look, we have to do things differently, and to do things differently is there's some amazing talent in this room, there's amazing talent in this country. Let's take advantage of it, and let's really achieve greatness amongst ourselves and with the people we have.
Thank you, Jan. Thank you, Jason. Thank you for listening. I know Jan is incredibly busy, so we're really lucky to have got him for half an hour or an hour because of the big transformation project. We've all been in the discovery workshops this week with Kāinga Ora. It's amazing buzz. Going to be a fantastic project. But thank you, Govis. Thanks, Bill.
Awesome. Thanks, Ian. Join me in thanking the team.